Welcome back, everybody. This is Unconditional Surrender, me, myself, and I playthrough of the main event scenario. We are getting ready to go into July 1943 Soviet Operation phase. Games posed by GMT Games, designed by Salvatore Vasta, developed by Mark Day. And we will go over to the Russian front right away to get into Soviet operations. We will start up the timer, so I don't take too long to try and do this, I hope. The Russians are going to try and get the Germans to use their tank marker early. So they're going to activate the 5th Guards Army. Guards Tank Army, I should say. Put the Russians over here. So that costs 2. And then they will attack the 2nd. And you go, why the 2nd? Well, if I can get the 2nd to retreat, I will make him have a quandary. If he goes straight back to 3154, both the German armor to the north and Rostov will be isolated. If he retreats to 3254, he keeps Rostov from being isolated, but it also has no retreat routes. If he retreats to the armor in the north, when I take the hex, would still be isolated. If he retreats to 3054 to keep the armor from being isolated, then Rostov will be isolated, and I'll be able to attack there at like +4 instead of +2, like I'm going to be right here. So this is a key hex, and the Germans know it, the Russians know it. The Russians are +1 for being elite, +2 for armor, -1 for the mountain. The Germans are +2 because they're German. So seeing this, the Germans know this is probably one of 2 key hexes out here. It's one of the bigger ones because it could isolate 2 units and end up like taking an entire chunk of my line out. So when they get to combat commitment, there's no question in my mind that the Germans have to throw the tanks marker to try and stuff this attack right now because it's a mobile attack. It cost 3 movement points for the Guards Tank Army to do that. So now it's +2 to +4. The Germans are trying to get like an AS to just stop this attack altogether. That's why they're playing the tanks marker now. So Russians roll a 5, +2 is a 7. The Germans roll a 4, +4 is an 8. And a 7 to an 8 is only a diamond. So they didn't get their AS, which is bad for the Germans. And now the Russians will spend 3 more and attack again, and this time it'll be +2 to +2, and there's no combat commitment because there's nothing left to commit. So +2 to +2, and the Russians roll 6. And the Germans roll a 2. That's exactly what they didn't want to have to do. A 6 to a 2 is a DR. Oh no, 2 is a 4, and they're an 8. So let's check that again. It's actually an 8 to a 4. 8 to a 4 is still a DR. I was afraid it might have been a DD. So now the Germans have to make a decision. You save Rostov or you save the armor? Save Rostov or save the armor? The armor is going to be +4 on all attacks against it. They'll be like +5s, or if they assault it, maybe like a +7. If I lose Rostov to mobile attacks, he would be able to, with me sitting up in 3054, he'd be able to run like the shock army 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We can't quite get to Depenostric, but if I'm up in 3054, this Guards army, motorized army, could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and be adjacent to Kharkov. Or I could just go up and attack the Hungarian garrison and possibly blow it up, and then move into Kharkov after it. So there is a real debacle here. Do I give them both up? I don't think I can save the armored unit as far as from being isolated. The question is whether I go to 3354 to save Rostov, or do I go to 3154 to contain the breakthrough? So if he breaks through on the armored, he has the same thing. He can run up against the garrison or start encircling the 16th and stuff like that. So it's a terrible decision to have to make, but I'm going to have to take 3154 because that's going to maintain my line. I'm going to have to do it that way. Now, the armored unit only has 4 movement points left, and attacking this infantry unit would still be only +2 to +2. But if I attack Rostov, since he's now isolated, I will end up being +4 net. I would be +1 because I'm elite, +2 for armor, +2 for isolation, -1 for the city. And he would be +2. So +4 to +2, if I can get a DR or something, then it's reduced and it makes it easier for a different unit to finish him off. So that's what I'm going to use my 3 of my last 4 movement points for. And the Russians roll at +4. 1 + 4 is a 5. The Germans roll. A 1 + 2 is a 3. Oh, terrible die rolls. I had the one chance here for the Germans to stand up tall and stuff the whole Russian attack, but it didn't work. So they have to retreat, and they can't, so they must flip. And that's going to end the activation of the 1st Guards Tank Army. Oh boy, I guess I'm going to just go with the guy in front here. We're just going to go with this guy. Costs 2. He's currently attacking at +3 to 0. I think that's good enough, because he can attack like 3 times. Because he has 7 movement points left right now. And if that fails, I can bring someone else in, like here, and use a tanks marker. So I'm going to save my tanks marker and see if I can get this guy dead on a +3 to 0. So the Russians are +3, +1 for elite, +2 for isolation. Oh, -1. They're only +2. They're +2 to 0. Sorry, not +3. So they'll go ahead and try the first attack at just +2 to 0 and see what happens. 4 + 2 is a 7. The Germans roll a 6, so that's a diamond. I'll spend 3 more. And try it again. +2 to 0. British, Maha. I can't speak. The Russians roll 3 + 2 is a 5, and the Germans roll a 3. And I believe a 5 to a 3 is a DR. The Germans cannot retreat, so they must be eliminated. So, faction card pops up. Germans go in their eliminated box. This can just go away because it's going to be controlled by the Soviets in a second. And the German national will goes down 1. And the Guards unit will take it. And it still has 4 movement points left. So now it can move 1 more space here. Oh, I took Rostov, so I get back a factory count. My factory count. Oh, there's some Italian things still on the board. Get rid of those Italians. Get rid of those Italians. Get rid of that Italian marker. Get rid of that Italian marker. Okay, did I get them all? I think I got them all. The Russian factory count actually goes up to 5 now because they just recaptured Rostov. And they still have that moves 1 movement point to move there, and he's got 3 more to do an attack. He's going to attack the 2nd that's in this mountain. Right now it's a +0. Hello. It's a +0 to +2. I see that being an assault on Rezav. And maybe I'll need another thing there. So I see this being okay to use a tanks marker. I'm going to go ahead and use a tanks marker on this attack. So that gets me back up to +2. So now it's +2 to +2, and I'm just trying to make him retreat. Russians roll 3 + 2 is 5. Germans roll a 1 + 2 is 3. 5 to a 3 is a retreat. Now the Germans are, they have to do the same. It's the same concept. They have to back up to 3153, simply because if they don't, if they go to like 3053, then they're letting the shock army or one of this mobile infantry army go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, attack the Hungarian. The shock army can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and attack the shock army or the Hungarian army. And I have these units sitting next to Depenostrik with very few people that can actually run up and garrison it to stop them. So he could be close to breaking the Dnieper. So I have to go back into 3153 to try and avoid that. I'm trying to cut down these avenues of breakthrough here. So that's why I'm retreating the way I am. Just people might be like, why aren't you going behind better terrain and things? Or that's why. I have to worry about the units behind just running through and doing whatever they want. Speaking of which, so that's 4 points that I spent. 32. I should be down to 28. So now, since I have this going, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3. I am thinking that I do want to take that hex. And then I'm going to send the 5th shock army. So that's 1 more point. And he's going to go 1, 2, 3 and attack the 2nd. So that's going to be, again, it's going to be a +2 to +2. There's nothing I can add from the shock army standpoint. But so that's 5 movement points. So I have 3 left. So I can do this twice. See if I can get a retreat out of him. Again, just trying to push the German line back as far as I can. That's the whole purpose behind all of this. And then I'll do my encirclements. So it's +2 to +2, and the Russians roll a 1 + 2 is a 3. The Germans roll a 5 + 2 is a 7. A 3 to a 7 is an AS. So he stopped that shock army attack right there. The 2nd holds, finally. All right, I'm not going to spend any more points trying to break through there. I've broken through. I've captured Rostov. Now I want to try and kill this German panzer, because it's expensive for him to rebuild it. Costs 2 production points to get it out, another 2 to get it to full strength, and it won't come back until next turn mobilization phase. So it's a big hole in his army if I can get it. So I'm going to start with this Guards Tanks army. He is... that's 2 production points. He will attack 2nd Panzer. It's +1 for elite, +2 because he's armor, and +2 because he's isolated. There's no terrain modifiers, and he's +4 for being German. So it's a +5 to a +4, and I can do it like 5 times unless he gets an AS result. So I have 8 movement points left. Let's see what happens. Russians roll. A 2 + 5 is a 7. Germans roll. A 4 + 4 is an 8. 7 to an 8 is a diamond. So that's the first attack. They spend 2 more and attack again at +5 to +4. The Russians roll. The Russians roll. There we go. A 2 + 5 is a 7 again. The Germans roll. A 2 + 4 is a 6. A 7 to a 6 is a diamond. And the Russians spend 2 more. They're down. It's their 3rd attack. And the Russians roll. A 4 + 5 is a 9. The Germans roll. A 6 + 4 is a 10, which I believe is still a diamond. Yes, okay. 3rd Panzer's putting up a fight anyway. We'll do it again. +5 to +4. Russians roll. A 6 + 5 is an 11. The Germans roll. A 1. plus 4 is a 5. An 11 to a 5 is the dreaded DD result. So it was good enough. They fought for a while, but then this happened. The DD result says first you have to flip, and then you have to retreat. Now he can't retreat, so he has to go down a will point, and then the unit goes onto the faction eliminated box. As much as the Russians don't want to take the hex, do they need to take the hex? I don't think they need to take the hex. The unit would be surrounded. Oh, let's just make it fly. We'll take the hex because then I can use my 2 movement points from there. So the Germans have to evacuate this airplane. They'll send it back to Kharkov for now. And then they get 2 more movement points. So they'll go 1, 2 to 2954. And the reason why they do that is then I can do this. This is where things start getting tricksy, as they say. I have a shock army that can move 1, 2 across the river. So he has 6 movement points left. Highlight him. We are going to attack the 16th. And we are +2 for being shock, +1 for elite, +1 for shock in fair weather, and then +2 because this unit is now isolated. And the Germans are at +2. So it's a +4 to a +2. And that will cost me another 2. So I have 4 movement points left. So here we go. The Russians roll at +4. 5 + 4 is a 9. The Germans roll. A 1 + 2 is a 3. And a 9 to a 3 is a DD, which is the same thing that happened to that armored unit, except much earlier. So he is flipped. He cannot retreat. I lose a national will. And this goes into the eliminated box. And with 4 movement points left, I think I'm going to take the hex. And then I'm going to move to here. For 1, so I have basically 1 attack left. And I think I'm going to go ahead and attack this garrison army, just to see if I can, because it's at a 0, and I'm a +2, just to see if I can do something to it. So let's see if that works. So +2 to a 0. Russians roll. 4 + 2 is a 6. The Germans roll a 5. 6 to a 5, just it holds. So that didn't work, but I've made a pretty good chunky hole here. Now the question is what do I want to do next? And I think what I want to do next is activate the 5th Tank Army. I have to check my count here. 1 for the shock, 2 for the shock, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I should be down 8, and I started at 32. Nope, I missed 1. Okay. And then I'm going to take off 2 for that tank army I just activated. And he's going to go 1, 2, and have 8 movement points left. And then he's going to spend 2 to attack the 7th garrison first. Okay? So the 7th garrison is at a 0, and I'm +2 for being an armored unit. So it's +2 to 0, and we roll. The Russians roll. A 4 + 2 is a 6. The Germans roll a 6, so that's a diamond. So I'm going to spend 2 more to attack that same infantry. And he rolls. The Russians roll a 5 + 2 is a 7. The Germans roll a 6, so it's still there. So I'll spend 2 more to attack that one. And the Russians roll a 2 + 2 is a 4. And the Germans roll a 6. And I think, if I remember right, a 4 to a 6, they actually do an AS there. So Russians don't get off their last attack. So that didn't work out the way I wanted it to. I was hoping to get a retreat there so I could try to move in and be able to assault Kharkov this turn. But that doesn't look like that's going to work too well. Where do I go now? Well, before I forget too much, I really want to try and take vsav again. Do I have anything on the faction track? No, I really don't have what I need to take vsav. I need heavy artillery to take vsav. And I don't really have armor that I can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I could get like one attack on the 3rd Panzer at decent odds. Or I could try to just do an assault, which would cost him at least a step. It'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Plus 5 to plus 2. Or I could just do plus 3, plus 2 on the first attack and see what happens. Oh, decisions. I'm going to go look up in the north, make sure I'm not missing anything. There's really not a good assault here until I get heavy artillery to come across these rivers and this nasty stuff. This assault here could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, minus 1. So it'd be plus 5 to plus 2. Let's try and take vsav. So that's 2 for the armor, 2 for the guards. Oh boy, come on. 2 for the guards. He's the primary. 2 for the armor. He's added in 2 for the shock. So that's 5 points. Where's my national tracks? Got to come down 5 points. 1, 2, 5. I'm down to 17. I will add in my tanks marker. Where's my tanks marker? I must add in a tanks marker. So I add in a tanks marker on the guards unit there. So, like I said, I'm plus 1 for guards, plus 2 for the tanks marker. A tank being added in is plus 2. Shock and fair weather being added in is plus 2. So I'm at plus 7. Okay, and then minus 1 for the city. Right? 2, 4, and 5. Yes. So I'm plus 7. So basically, I'm a net plus 6, and he's a plus 2. So the Russians roll on the assault. 5 plus 6 is an 11. The Germans roll on the assault. A 3 plus 2 is a 5. So what's an 11 to a 5? It's actually a DD result. So this guy gets flipped and must retreat. He only has one legal retreat route, so he has to go there. This thing's going to be being forced to fly away. It's going to fly away to where? Belaluki, I think. Okay, and then the guards unit will take that. The turn track, tanks marker back. That was an assault, so I don't get any extra moves out of it, but I took back my city. It's a supply source, and it's also, now it threatens to cut off the Panzer in the 1st Army and the 4th. Everything's being threatened there. Because another successful attack on any kind of flank here, and he could be in real trouble. So it's going to force them to withdraw from in front of Moscow, which is going to give me ground. I have basically 2 left if I want to replace all my airplanes, which I want to do. So with only 2 points left to try and pull anything off, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 3, 4. So we'll activate this guards unit. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7 to attack that guards unit, or that garrison unit. That leaves me 3 movement points left. The defender's at 0 because he's a garrison. I am going to use my last tanks marker on this particular attack because I don't see myself doing anything else. That gives me, I'm down to +1 because I'm guards, and then +2 for the tanks marker, and then -1 for the river. So I am +2 to his 0. And we're just hoping to get a good split here and make life miserable for the Germans. So the attack roll is the Russians roll with +2. 1 + 2 is a 3. The Germans roll a 4, so nothing happens on that one. Now the Russians will take it as a 0. They're +1 for being guards, -1 for the river. It's a 0 to 0. Just looking for dice rolls. And that's my last 3 movement points for him. So the Russians roll a 6. Hey, that's good. As good as I can get. The Germans roll a 4. That's gonna force them to retreat, I believe. 6 to a 4 is a DR, so they have to retreat. They only have one legal retreat route, which is right into Kharkov. And I'm going to put the airplane and its sorties on top. And the guards unit will go ahead and take the hex. Do I want to take the hex? That's a real quandary. Oh, I forgot to put a tanks marker on the turn track that I used. Sorry about that. If I take the hex, I have no retreat route, but he has to attack me all across the river, so yeah, I'll take the hex. Just so I start in position to try and assault into Kharkov. Although he's probably going to put like real infantry into Kharkov. Although the 15th can't get away. So I do have it pinned. Because I have it pinned in zones of control. So the Germans are running out of units to defend with down here in the south. Maybe I'm going to break the north to make them all run to the south to try and stop me. Oh, that could be fun. Okay. One quick check again on the Russians. Make sure I spent right. I should be at 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I spent 17 and I was at 32. That's 15 left, so I'm at the right place. Double checking, making sure that 1, 2, 1, 2. Oh, he can't take that hex. He would be out of supply. I knew there was a reason why I couldn't take the hex, so I have to stay there. If I take the hex, I'm not within 2 of anything without having to go through zones of control, and I don't want to move any more units, so I'm going to have to leave that hex open. If the Germans want to stuff something in there and make me attack it, they can, because this lets me stay in supply, and that's more important right now than anything. So, that was my timer. That was my timer to end my turn. I'm going to go ahead and add in the end of turn phase because that's where we're at. So I'm going to do it as quick as I can. If I make some mistakes, I will rectify them when I get the chance in between turns. So that was our Russian operations phase. Nobody has a no supply marker on them, so we can ignore that part. Placements phase for the Axis. 3, 6, 9, 12. Didn't he flip an infantry unit somewhere? I thought he flipped an infantry unit. There he is. 13. So let's take 13 off right away. 1, 2, 3, and 10. Then we'll go over to the west. Yeah, he takes it down to for 3 more. So it leaves me with 7. And then this guy gets flipped. It leaves me with 6. I'm going to go ahead and take these while I can. Because I'm not going to have the luxury of these points next turn. That leaves 3, and I believe in the faction track I have 1 unit to build. I'm going to need to save a bunch to try and build back my armor and my infantry next turn. So, yeah, boy oh howdy. So, that's the replacement place for the Axis, the West. Oh, I should. These are Americans. There's an American bomber and an American fleet. And I think that's it. For the Americans. And I gotta spend the British. They've got 29. So they go 4. And then it's 3, 6. Oh, where the hell is it? 9. So that's 9 more. So might as well go ahead and clear this guy too. For 3. I might as well clear this guy for 3. And this airplane for 3. Airplane should have actually had 2 stories on it because I moved it after it landed. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Still have 7 left. And I can't clear anything else. I've got nothing else to build, nothing else to reset. So, the British are ahead of the build game here. Wow. Okay, that's the British. The Russians, we know that they have 15 that they're going to use on their airplanes, so we just have to go there and do it. This is more to make the Germans have to, come get me than anything. Which they will. I mean, it's just a matter of if they don't get. They did this last turn where they only got 1s and 2s and 3 1s and 2s against my airplanes. I could end up with a sortie or 2 next turn. So that's the Western. That's the Soviets. Upgrades, no. Upgrades, no. The Soviets have an upgrade. I don't know where I'm going to put it, but I am going to put it on the board. I have a tank up here. I have 2 of the guard tanks down here. So I think I want to have a second guards tank up here. It's like trying to keep the guards tanks around shock armies so that they're super effective. So the 4th guards is going to replace the 4th tank right there. And he just gets deleted. And mobilization phase for the Axis had, they have 1 point to build that I know of. Yes. So he's... I get dropped. Jesus. I just drop him in Munich because I don't know what else to do with him. He'll get strategically redeployed to wherever he's going, most likely, or he'll run into Italy and I'll take one of those units out. I don't know which yet. That's Axis mobilization. There's nobody else has anything to build, so... Oh, yes, they do. We get to the Western, and they go, thank you very much. We will put our surprise attack marker back on, do the Game board in 1, 2, 3, 4. Have it back in November for the Americans. That's what I love about the Americans. Just, oh, I spent something here. Let me buy that back right away. No mobilization for Soviets. Diplomacy phase. We're not talking. We're all fighting. Victory check phase. They haven't conquered Germany yet. End of turn phase. I should just look this card up. And going straight here. And here's the German stack. One of these counters needs to be deleted. So Germans don't get no Italian stuff. And economics reform. 1, 2, 3, 4? No, that's not right. You get them in April, you get them in August. 1, 2, 3, December. I can't put it in December because it's... There it is. Okay. And my factory count, my extra factories counter goes up 1. Ta-da. That'll help offset some of those strategic losses I took last turn. The British attacks prize attack markers on the board, as is their free forces marker. Russian tanks markers, of course, all show up. The Russian partisans all show up. The heavy artillery shows up, and a heavy artillery shows up. So we are looking at the Russians are literally loaded to the gills with everything they can possibly use. 2 partisans, 2 heavy artilleries, 3 tanks markers, and they have 4 guards tank armies on the board, as well as a bunch of guards infantry. So things are looking up for the Russians in August of 1943. Things are looking bad for the Germans in August of 1943. So that there is the Russian operations phase and end of turn phases. Sorry I ran over, but I felt like I didn't want to make a 5-minute video of me just moving counters around. I'm Dren608. If you like the videos that you're seeing, please subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. This is the Me, Myself, and I playthrough of the main event scenario of the game Unconditional Surrender. We will begin with August 1943 in our next set of episodes. Please leave me comments. I do try to respond to comments when I can get to them. Sometimes it takes me a few days. Real life tends to get in the way at times. But we will be back next time with August of 1943. And we will see how things unfold in this alternate version of World War II history. Bye-bye.